What is going on, everybody? How you all doing out there? I hope this video is finding you well. Welcome or welcome back to Get Right On In. My name is Andrew, for those of you who do not know, and today I am just going to go over my June wrap-up as well as deliver the final results from the Olympic Games Readathon over on the Shelf Space Discord. This month was super fun for me. I ended up reading 2 more books than I had planned on at the beginning of the month, which is always a good thing. So with all this now out of the way, without further ado, let's get right on in. Okay, so first up, the results. I was the captain of Team Aries, for those of you who do not know, and we went from 6th place to 8th place to 5th place to 2nd place to finally 3rd place at the end, which I am not mad about because we lost to Abby from Abby Salter on Team Poseidon, and I would have much rather lost to her than to Alan from Library of Alexandria, who captained Team Zeus. They came in 2nd place, and I'm not even mad about that. I had so much fun with my team this month. I had such a good reading month. It's been the best reading month I've had so far this year, so I really have no complaints. So now on to the wrap up for what I read and how I felt about things. Honestly, I really didn't like most of the books that I read this month that much. It was kind of like a little bit of a letdown, I guess, in that regard. But the first book that I finished was Sweet Spot by Amy Ettinger. This is all about ice cream. I didn't hate this book at all. Kim over at Bookmarks and Breadsticks has her little Read It and Eat subscription box that comes out seasonally, and this was the summer pick. I definitely got more ice cream even after I read this book because I was thinking about everything and I was going back over my little review for it, and I just really had a craving for some ice cream. I learned a lot actually in this book. It was a lot more interesting and a lot more informative than I had expected. I thought that the author was just going to be talking about her love of ice cream, and while that is obviously a main topic of discussion in here, there was just so much about all of the different types of ice cream, between like regular ice cream and frozen yogurt and everything else in between. So this was definitely one of the more interesting reads that I had this month. I think I only gave it a 4.25 out of 5 at the end, just because some of it was kind of like not really necessary. There was definitely some parts in here, even though it's a short book, there was just some parts that felt like they were dragging on or just really didn't need to be a part of the book. Just seemed like she was trying to make it longer just to make it fit more into a book, because if it did not have half of the stuff that shouldn't have been in here, it probably wouldn't have barely even cracked 100 pages. But for the most part, I did actually really enjoy it. I wouldn't probably reread it again in the future ever, but who knows, if I'm ever in the mood to learn some more about ice cream or refresh myself for some of the things that she said, I will definitely go back. The next book that I finished this month was Mistborn by Tracy Deonn, and this one was just a 3 out of 5 for me. I don't know, I really wanted to like this book a lot more than I did. I saw so much about it over on Jessie May's channel when she was reading it with Elliot Brooks. Even today, I just watched her little bookshelf tour that she just posted, and she still talked about how much she loved this book, even though she knows that there are some polarizing opinions. I really did wish that I loved this book more than I ended up loving it in the end. It just, it didn't work out for me, and I'm really sad to say that, to report that, because I was actually the most excited, I think, about reading this book this month, and so maybe I just put too much expectation in it. Maybe I just hyped it up too much in my mind, but in the end, it fell really flat for me. I did not like any of the Arthurian stuff in here. I just felt like it was all over the place, and I almost felt like she couldn't really choose a direction that she wanted to go with this book. So I don't know, I won't be continuing on with this series, so I don't really know what else to say about it. I've kind of already talked about it a lot this month, and I just want to be done talking about it, because if it wasn't for the readathon, I probably would have DNF'd that book, and I'm sorry to say it, but that's just how I felt. The next book that I finished this month was The Patience of a Dead Man by Michael Clark. Loved this book. This was actually my favorite book that I read this month. I was really hoping that I would have some time to get to the second book, which is Dead Woman Scorn, and maybe even the third book, which is Anger and Acid, but unfortunately I was not yet able to get to either of those books, but I am very excited for the opportunity that I have to do that because I have the entire bind up here in this little copy. But this book was super creepy. I originally heard about it from Leslie over at the Nerdy Narrative, and then my in real life bestie now, Sharon Dwyer, talked about this a lot as well. It doesn't necessarily start that scary, and it's not a bunch of like jump scares or anything like that. It's just a very eerie undertone is really, I guess, all I can really say about this. Like it was very unsettling, you know? It wasn't graphic, it wasn't gory, it wasn't like nightmare worthy type horror, but it definitely just kind of like left a little empty feeling in the back of the throat, if that makes sense, where you just feel a little bit uneasy, kind of like looking around. Even right now as I'm talking about this, I'm looking at the open door behind me and I'm scared that it's gonna like shut by itself, or I'm gonna see some little shadow come out over it or something like that. Now I'm actually starting to freak myself out, especially because I'm in San Diego and this is where they film Paranormal Activity, so you just really never know what's going on over here. And like I said when I mentioned this book in my wrap-up, when I was reading it, this random scratch just appeared on my side, and it was the exact same scratch that appeared on the main character when it happened, and it was like, I don't know, there was some weird things, I guess, that were going on for me when I read this, but it was really well done. It was really creepy. It was everything that I wanted in a horror book, so I am certainly excited to carry on with this series as soon as I get the opportunity, and I will definitely let you all know what I think of these books as I finish them. The next book that I finished this month was going to be The Wastelands by Stephen King. I did this book on audio, and I love Frank Muller so much. Oh my gosh, I love the Dark Tower series as well. I also finished Wizarding Glass, so I guess I might as well just kind of talk about both of them at the same time here, just because I have already read the Dark Tower series twice. This audio version experience is the third time I've ventured into the Dark Tower, but it does kind of feel like I'm reliving the story for the first time since it is on the audiobook, and that is a format that I am not used to for this book. But both of these books are just so good. Wizarding Glass, I think, is a very commonly chosen favorite book of the entire series, which I can certainly see why. We get so much more characterization into the main character Roland. We get so much more backstory into Midworld and kind of, I guess, things that have happened before our main quartet comes together. Everything with Blaine the Mono and all of the riddles was just so expertly done, and it's just another reason that Stephen King is the king of everything, because oh my gosh, these books are just absolutely crazy. I'm super excited to carry on listening to these audiobooks for the last 3 books in this series, especially as I catch up to Miss Leslie, as she is moving on to the 6th book in July. She's only doing 1 book a month, so that definitely gives me this July to read the 5th and 6th books, to catch up with her, to read the 7th book with her, because I want to be there as she finishes this book. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see what her opinions are of the final book in this series. This is one of those series that I just love watching people read for the first time, because it is a series that if I had an opportunity to ever just wipe my mind completely of what happened and relive this whole entire thing from the start for the first time, I totally would, because the first time I read these books, I will not forget how blown away I was and the journey that this whole entire thing just takes you on. Each book is just so different from the last book, and so I love them all so much. The differences in the books is a reason that I have such a hard time myself in choosing a favorite, but I do think that Wizarding Glass might end up taking that crown later on, but then I also said the same thing about The Drawing of the Three, and I also said the same thing about The Wastelands, and I still have 3 books to listen to on audio, so I guess we'll see, because the 7th book is also pretty epic, so I don't really know. I don't know, but The Dark Tower, just in general, I did do my little video on whether or not The Dark Tower is worth it, and if you haven't figured out that my answer to that is yes, it is way more than worth it, then I don't know, go check out that video and see if I can help sway you even further. The next book that I finished this month was The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I don't know what to say about this book, honestly. I really wanted to enjoy this more because I love the Poppy War so much, but it started out really slow for me, and even though it picked up pace toward the end, it didn't click with me as well as I had hoped or I had wanted, especially because of how much I really did love the first book. I have already heard so many polarizing opinions about the final book in this series called The Burning God. So even though I do have a copy of it, and even though I am going to end up finishing this book series, I don't think that this particular book did anything to make me want to rush into the third book. I mostly now just want to finish it just to finish it because, I don't know, our main character Rin here, she was just getting really hard to deal with, and I hear that she's even harder to deal with in the third book, and that it's not even as much about her in the third book as it is about other characters being hard to deal with. So I don't really know how I feel about moving forward. Like I said, I'm gonna do it just so I can do it, but this book kind of was a letdown for me overall. Poppy War was a 5 out of 5 for me. This one I put at a 3.5 just because I do still enjoy R.F. Kuang's writing style. I think that she has a very engaging way of telling the story. It's just that this one was a lot harder for me to actually connect to, and I just ultimately was really let down. I don't know, it's such a bum deal with all of the books this month that like let me down, but I still had a good time, so it's fine. The next book that I finished this month finally was Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have been trying to read this book since January. I don't know why it's taken me so long to actually get around to it. I finished it last night in the final night of this little readathon, and I'm super happy that I did. I love Vin. She's such an amazing main character, and this is such an action-packed story. I really love all of the sense of mystery and intrigue, and I love the allomancers and the way that the magic system is set up in this book. I'm very excited to finally be able to move forward with this trilogy because I have read this book before. I just haven't really read the other two. I have started Well of Ascension, but I'm super glad that I reminded myself of all of the events that happened in book one instead of just going straight for book two. So we will see how I feel about the Wells of Ascension when I move on to it this next month, I believe, because I believe I will be doing it as a buddy read with Allie over at Kissy Reads. I was originally supposed to buddy read Legendborn with her, but I just went off on my own and didn't, so sorry about that, Allie. Even though you say it's fine, I still feel really bad. But we will be reading The Well of Ascension together, and then I will let you all know how I feel about the continuation of this Mistborn series. But as of now, the reread of book one was just as good as it was, and it's just as amazing as I remembered it being, and it's still sitting at, I think I'll keep it at a 5 out of 5. I had originally rated it on Goodreads, and Goodreads doesn't let you do like 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, etc. So I will just keep it at a 5 out of 5 right now because I don't really have much else to say about it. It's interesting just because now that I have read so many other Sanderson books, going back to this now, I can just kind of tell that it's one of his first ones, especially in comparison to like the Stormlight archive. And this was actually the first Brandon Sanderson book that I have read, but now I've read a lot of them, even though I'm way behind on so many of the other ones. I don't know how he pumps them out as fast as he does, but I love this book and I'm excited to continue on with the rest of the series so that I can see how it all comes to an end. And the last book that I read this month was Voice of War by Zach Argyle. And first of all, Adam Gold, who is the narrator of the audiobook that I listened to, was so good. Oh my gosh, he did such an amazing job reading that book. I just found out that the second book, I think, is called Stone of Light. I don't know, Leslie was talking about it on her channel earlier, but that one's coming out and I will definitely be continuing on with this series. I would like to actually get some sort of physical copy for Voice of War so I can go back into it, just because sometimes with fantasy audiobooks it's hard for me to really follow along, especially when I was just trying to squeeze this book in at the end to get us some last minute points for my team because I was trying to boost us up. But I think that Zach has a really great writing style. This story really was very engaging and unique in my opinion, even though it was kind of short, but I think it was short, sweet, and to the point. It was really well read, and I left it right now at a 4 out of 5, but my rating might go up or just change after I do have an opportunity to actually read the physical copy. But I certainly am interested in moving on with this series, and I think that Zach did a great job, and I'm really glad that he wrote this book and shared it with us. So if you have not read that book, then you're definitely missing out, and you even have some time to do it maybe this next month, because Lana over at Lore and Lullabies is hosting the Indie Accords readathon this next month, which I am not participating in because I cannot do another readathon this month. But that readathon does focus on specifically just independently published books like this one, so feel free to go get you a copy, and it is available on Scribd. So if you have that, then it's just included in your membership and you really have no reason not to. And that is going to do me for this last month. Like I said, I had originally only wanted to do 6 books and I managed to get through 8, so I am very proud of myself. I'm very proud of Team Aries for all of their contributions this month. We had a great time in our little team chat. I think everyone did an amazing job, and congratulations to Abby and Team Poseidon for taking the crown in this wonderful little readathon that was like way crazier than the Reindeer Games one we did in December. So what books did you all read this last month? Did you enjoy them more than I enjoyed mine? Because if you were as let down by all of the books that you read as I was, and I am sorry for you, but I am hopeful that July is better. So let me know down in those comments how your month went. If you did partake in this readathon, how was it for you? Where did your team land in the rankings? And are you as excited for the next readathon as I am? Even though I won't be doing the India Gords one this month because your boy just needs to take a break. Thank you all so much for watching this video today. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would consider giving it a little thumbs up, as well as potentially consider pressing on that little subscribe button to join me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes on Sundays for bookish and writerly and entertainment-y-esque content just like this. In the meantime, I hope you all have a day just as beautiful as you, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!